The transport ship New Dawn drifted through the frontier reaches like a silver fish in an endless ocean. Inside the common area, 12 children chased each other around the viewing windows while their parents watched from comfortable seats. 8-year-old Lily Ross pressed her face against the glass, counting stars with her friend Sophia. David Ross smiled at his daughter from across the room. He had packed their entire life into cargo containers for this journey. New Haven Colony waited 3 days ahead, promising fresh air and open fields instead of cramped Earth cities. His wife had died 2 years ago, and this move felt like a new beginning for both of them. Captain Irina Volkov walked through the common area, checking on her passengers. The New Dawn carried 32 families, all heading to start farms on the new colony world. She had made this run 17 times without incident. The frontier was safe, peaceful, boring even. Tommy Chen sat in the corner with his drawing tablet, sketching the other children. His parents had promised him a real treehouse on New Haven. At 6 years old, he could barely imagine what a real tree looked like, having grown up in orbital stations. The alarm changed everything. Red lights flooded the corridors. Volkov ran to the bridge while parents grabbed their children. David scooped Lily into his arms as the ship shuddered to a halt. Through the windows, massive council warships appeared from nowhere, surrounding them like wolves circling prey. A harsh voice crackled through the speakers. Volkov argued with someone, her face turning pale. David set Lily down with the other children and moved toward the bridge. He was a diplomat, had spent 20 years negotiating treaties. Whatever this was, he could fix it. The hologram of High Arbiter Quindle materialized in the common area. The bird-like creature's feathers ruffled with anger. His species controlled half the council votes, made most of the laws that governed 1,000 worlds. "This vessel will submit to immediate inspection," Quindle declared. "You have violated expansion protocols." David stepped forward, keeping his voice calm. "High Arbiter, I'm Ambassador David Ross. We have full documentation for this colony transport. New Haven was approved by your own council 3 years ago." "Silence, you will allow boarding or be destroyed." Volkov appeared at David's side, whispering urgently. "They're not waiting for permission. Docking clamps already attached." The children huddled together near their parents. Lily held Sophia's hand tight. Tommy stopped drawing and stared at the armed shadows moving past the windows. Metal groaned as airlocks connected. The door to the common area exploded inward. Council enforcers stormed through, weapons raised. Their armor made them look like insects, all angles and black plates. Commander Brennix led them, his 4 arms each holding a different weapon. "Everyone on the floor," Brennix ordered. His translator made his voice sound like grinding metal. Parents dropped to their knees, pulling children down with them. David remained standing. "This is a civilian transport. These are families, children." "I said down." David knelt slowly, never breaking eye contact. Lily crawled to him, burying her face in his chest. Around the room, other children started crying. The sound filled the space, high-pitched and terrified. A young enforcer near the door shifted nervously. His species had sensitive hearing. The crying grew louder. More children joined in, feeding off each other's fear. Sophia sobbed. Tommy wailed for his mother. The young enforcer's weapon trembled. The crying pierced his skull. He had trained for combat, for enemy soldiers, not for this. His finger tightened on the trigger. "Stand down," Brennix ordered, but the noise drowned him out. The weapon fired. Lily Ross died instantly, still holding her father. Sophia fell beside her. Tommy's scream cut off as energy tore through his small body. Lucas Silva, 9 years old and excited about learning to ride horses, never made it to New Haven. 4 children dead in 2 seconds. 12 more injured as the panicked enforcer kept firing, until Brennix physically ripped the weapon from his hands. David Ross felt his daughter go limp. Warm blood soaked his shirt. He couldn't hear anything except a high ringing sound. His hands shook as he lowered Lily gently to the floor. Her eyes stared at nothing. He threw himself over 3 other children as more weapons came up. Energy blasts hit his back, his shoulder, his leg. He felt nothing. Other parents did the same, human bodies becoming shields. Then silence. Brennick stared at the carnage. His 4 arms hung useless at his sides. The young enforcer dropped his weapon and backed away, all his eyes wide with horror. High Arbiter Quindle's hologram flickered. His beak opened and closed without sound. Somewhere in a council chamber light years away, he realized what had just happened. Humans had one absolute rule, known across every civilized world. Touch their territory, insult their leaders, destroy their ships. Humans would negotiate, compromise, even forgive. But harm their children and something fundamental changed. Earth's harsh evolution had burned this truth into human DNA. Every child represented survival itself. Captain Volkov's hands flew across her console, sending emergency broadcasts on every frequency. Full recordings, unedited footage, directly to Earth. David Ross knelt in spreading blood, holding 3 terrified children while his own daughter cooled beside him. His wounds bled freely, but he did not move. Tommy Chen clutched his leg, still alive but barely. Sophia and Lucas would never grow up. "Secure all witnesses," Quindle ordered finally. His voice cracked. "Take them to Outpost Epsilon. No communications in or out. This incident is classified." Brennick started to protest but stopped. What could he say? What words existed for this? The enforcers herded survivors toward their ships. Medical teams rushed in, but 4 small bodies remained on the floor. Parents screamed and fought to stay with their dead children. David let the medics take Tommy and the others, but he could not stand. His legs would not work. They carried him to a medical bay. Through the haze of shock and blood loss, he heard Volkov arguing, heard her being silenced. The New Dawn's engines powered down. They were prisoners now. As consciousness faded, David's last thought was clear and cold. Earth would learn what happened here. And when Earth learned, the galaxy would discover what silence sounded like before the storm. High Arbiter Quindle watched the transport being towed to the remote station. He had made terrible mistakes in his long career, but this one, he knew with absolute certainty, would end everything he had built. The Council, the peace, perhaps even his species' place in the galaxy. Because humanity had just gone silent. And that silence terrified him more than any declaration of war ever could. 72 hours passed in the cold silence of Outpost Epsilon. The remote station floated in empty space, far from any travel routes or inhabited systems. Gray metal walls reflected harsh white lights that never dimmed. The station existed for one purpose, to hold things the Council wanted hidden. David Ross woke in a medical bed, tubes running from his arms. His chest felt like it was filled with broken glass. Every breath hurt. He tried to sit up and failed. A nurse approached, one of the reptilian species that served on most council stations. She touched a control and his bed raised slowly. "Where is my daughter?" David's voice came out as a whisper. The nurse looked away. That told him everything. Memory crashed back, Lily falling, blood spreading, 4 children who would never laugh again. David closed his eyes, but the images remained, burned into his mind forever. Where are the other survivors? Detention area C. You were too injured to move before now. The nurse hesitated. "I am sorry for your loss. This should not have happened." Should not have happened. Such simple words for the end of everything. Station Commander Prill entered the medical bay, flanked by guards. The bureaucrat's species resembled tall insects, all clicking mandibles and too many joints. "Ambassador Ross, you are recovering well. High Arbiter Quindle wishes to speak with you." "I want to see the bodies of the children. I want to contact Earth. I want." "Impossible. All external communications are suspended. This incident is under investigation." David stared at him. "Investigation? You murdered 4 children and wounded 12 more. What exactly needs investigating?" "The circumstances were unfortunate, regrettable, but procedures must be followed." "Get out." Prill's mandibles clicked in what might have been surprise. "Ambassador, you must understand. Get out of my sight before I find the strength to kill you with my bare hands." The guards raised their weapons. Prill stepped back. Something in David's voice made even armed soldiers nervous. The station commander retreated, leaving David alone with his grief. On Earth, Defense Fleet Command looked like a disturbed anthill. Admiral Patricia Wong stood before the massive display showing every human ship in known space. All of them were coming home. Every trader, every explorer, every diplomat, every scientist. The withdrawal happened in complete silence. Human vessels ignored all hails from Council ships, passed through checkpoints without responding, returned to Earth like salmon swimming upstream. Senator Yuki Tanaka entered the command center, her face drawn. "The assembly is voting in 1 hour." Wong nodded without turning. "What are the options?" 3 proposals: full military mobilization and immediate assault on Council positions, economic sanctions and diplomatic isolation, or precision strike to recover our people and then reassess. "What do you support?" "I want our people back. I want the bodies of those children returned for proper burial, but I will not start a war that kills more children, theirs or ours." Tanaka moved beside Wong, studying the display. "We are better than what was done to us." "Are we?" Wong's voice was flat. 4 dead children, Yuki, 12 wounded, and they are trying to hide it." Director Nash materialized from the shadows. The intelligence operative had a gift for appearing without warning. "The survivors are being held at Outpost Epsilon," Nash reported. "High Arbiter Quindle has ordered a communication blackout. He is attempting to control the narrative before we respond." "Too late," Wong said. "Captain Volkov transmitted everything before they seized her ship. Every news network on Earth has the footage. Every human being has seen what they did." Tanaka pulled up the casualty list. 4 names, 4 faces. Lily Ross, age 8, loved astronomy. Tommy Chen, age 6, wanted to be an artist. Sophia Okonkwo, age 7, collected rocks. Lucas Silva, age 9, had memorized every constellation. "Children, just children." "The assembly will authorize recovery operations," Tanaka said quietly. "The vote is just formality. No one on Earth will accept leaving our people in Council custody after this." Wong turned finally, her expression carved from stone. "Then I need authorization to mobilize the defense fleet, and I need it before Quindle does something even more stupid." In the Council High Chamber, panic spread like fire. Councillor Tethven watched his colleagues argue, scream, and blame each other. The amphibian diplomat had served the Council for 40 years. He had never seen such chaos. High Arbiter Quindle stood at the center podium, trying to restore order. "The incident was tragic but isolated. We have contained the situation. The humans will accept reparations." "The humans have recalled every ship," someone shouted. "They are not accepting anything." "Their defense fleet is mobilizing," another added. 70 warships and counting." Tethvan rose slowly, his voice cutting through the noise. "We were warned. For 20 years humans have told us clearly, never harm their young. We dismissed it as primitive superstition. We were wrong." "They are emotional," Quindle argued. "They will see reason once." "They are silent," Tethvan interrupted. "That is what terrifies me. If they were threatening war, we could negotiate. If they were demanding territory, we could bargain. But they have said nothing. They have simply withdrawn and wait. Do you understand what that means?" The chamber went quiet. "It means they are deciding how to respond," Tethvan continued. and we have given them every reason to choose violence. We killed their children. Then we tried to hide it. We are holding survivors hostage and calling it protective custody. Every action makes reconciliation less likely. What would you have us do? Quindle demanded. Return the survivors, return the bodies, surrender those responsible, beg forgiveness and pray they grant it. Impossible, we cannot show such weakness. Alarms cut him off. A hologram appeared showing Commander Brenix aboard a stolen Council cruiser. Behind him, human survivors surrounded by armed loyalists. I have taken custody of the witnesses, Brenix announced. I will not surrender them to human vengeance. I demand sanctuary for myself and those who follow me. Quindle's feathers stood straight up in shock. You have doomed us all. Tethvan closed his eyes. The situation had just become infinitely worse. Humans would see this as confirmation that the Council never intended to return their people. On Earth, Admiral Wang watched Brenix's transmission. Her hands gripped the command console hard enough to hurt. 48 hours, she said quietly. They have 48 hours to return our people. After that, I am coming to get them myself. The countdown began. The shattered belt looked like someone had exploded a planet and left the pieces floating. Thousands of asteroids drifted in chaotic patterns, making navigation nearly impossible. Perfect place to hide. Commander Alex Rivera studied the scan results from her stealth ship. Somewhere in this mess, Brenix had built a fortress. Somewhere in that fortress, 32 human survivors waited for rescue. Found it, her sensor operator called out. Asteroid 774, artificial heat signature, power generation, defensive shields. Rivera pulled up the tactical display. The compound sat deep inside a hollowed asteroid, protected by automated weapons and Brenix's remaining loyalists. A direct assault would work but might get hostages killed. We do this clean, she told her team. 12 operators, precision entry, 0 casualties on our side or theirs. The children have seen enough violence. Dr. Sophie Grant listened from the medical ship hanging back from the belt. The trauma physician had volunteered when she heard about the rescue mission. No payment, no official orders. She just packed her equipment and showed up. Commander Rivera, medical standing by. I have beds for 32 survivors plus emergency capacity for 40 more if needed. Understood, Doctor. Hopefully we will not need emergency capacity. On the bridge of the flagship Defender, Admiral Wang monitored the operation. The defense fleet surrounded the shattered belt in a sphere 5 million kilometers wide. Nothing was leaving this system without her permission. A transport docked with the flagship. Against all medical advice and direct orders, Ambassador David Ross walked onto the bridge. His wounds had barely healed. He should have been in a hospital bed on Earth. Ambassador, you should not be here, Wang said without looking up. My daughter died in that attack. Other people's children are still hostages. Where else would I be? Wang studied him. The man looked like death itself, pale and shaking, but his eyes burned with something that made her nod. Stay out of the way. Watch only. If you interfere, I will have you sedated and locked in quarters. Understood, Admiral. Inside the asteroid compound, the survivors huddled in a converted storage chamber. Captain Volkov had organized the adults into shifts, keeping watch and keeping the children calm. Tommy Chen sat wrapped in blankets, his injuries healing slowly. The 6-year-old had not spoken since the shooting. Sophia's mother held her daughter's jacket, unable to let it go. 3 other families grieved for children who would never come home. The bodies remained in cold storage somewhere in this horrible place. Lieutenant Skell stood guard outside their chamber. The young enforcer had not slept in 3 days. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the shooting, saw the children fall, heard their screams. His species valued honor above all else. What honor existed in murdering children? Commander Brenix paced the command center, watching scanners that showed human ships everywhere. They had not attacked yet. That worried him more than weapons fire. Humans were planning something. "Sir, we should negotiate," Skell said quietly. "Return the hostages, face judgment." "Judgment from humans means death. You saw what they are capable of." "I saw what we are capable of," Skell corrected. "We killed their children, not the other way around." Brennicks's 4 arms gestured violently. "I gave the order to board. That enforcer pulled the trigger, but I am responsible. Do you think humans will care about the distinction? They will execute all of us." "Perhaps we deserve it." The words hung in the air. Brennick stared at his lieutenant, seeing the doubt spreading among the others. Rivera's team moved through the asteroid like ghosts. They had studied the compound layout from long-range scans. Identified every weakness. The entry point was a maintenance tunnel that Brennicks's people had overlooked. They cut through the outer wall with plasma torches, moving in perfect silence. Hand signals only. Each operator knew their role exactly. The first guard went down to a tranquilizer dart, unconscious before he hit the floor. The second and third followed. Rivera's team was inside the compound in under 4 minutes without firing a shot. Skell's communicator buzzed with an encrypted message. He glanced at it and froze. The humans were offering him a choice. Help them and face fair trial. Fight them and die with Brennick's. The message included compound layouts marked with red dots, guard positions, his guard positions, information only someone inside could provide. Skell looked at the security feeds, saw human operators moving through corridors, saw them carefully avoiding lethal force. Tranquilizers only. They were keeping their promise. He made his decision. Skell walked to the hostage chamber and opened the door. Captain Volkov jumped up, ready to fight. The children screamed. "I am going to help you," Skell said quickly. "Human forces are in the compound. I am disabling the locks. When they arrive, do not resist." "Why should we trust you?" Volkov demanded. "Because I am tired of being a monster." He entered override codes, and the chamber locks turned green. Then he walked away before she could respond. Rivera reached the hostage area to find the doors already open. Volkov stood ready, the children behind her. The commander raised her hand slowly. "Captain Volkov, I am Commander Rivera, Earth Defense Fleet. We are here to bring you home." The children rushed forward. Rivera's team caught them, checked them for injuries, spoke softly. Tommy Chen grabbed Rivera's leg and would not let go. She knelt and held him while he finally cried. "The bodies?" Volkov asked. "We know where they are. We will bring them home too." Medical teams arrived. Dr. Grant moved through the survivors with gentle efficiency, treating wounds while her assistants gathered the children. Within 10 minutes, all hostages were moving toward the extraction ships. Brennick realized too late what was happening. He rushed toward the hostage chamber and found it empty. His hostages gone, his leverage destroyed. Ambassador Ross appeared at the end of the corridor. Behind him, Rivera's entire team with weapons raised. "Commander Brennick," Ross said quietly, "it is over." Brennick grabbed the ambassador, putting a weapon to his head. Rivera had a clear shot but hesitated. The hostage they came to save was now a shield. The children were safe. That mattered most, but Ross mattered too. "You will let me leave," Brennick demanded, "or the ambassador dies." Through the corridor speakers, a child's voice rang out. Tommy Chen, speaking for the first time in days. "Please do not hurt Mr. Ross. He saved us, please." Brennick's weapon trembled. The compound corridor felt too small for what was happening. David Ross could feel the weapon pressed against his skull, could feel Brennick shaking behind him. Commander Rivera had a perfect shot. One pull of her trigger and this ended. But Rivera did not fire. "You have children," David said quietly, not to Rivera but to Brennick. The weapon pressed harder. "What?" I have been a diplomat for 20 years. I studied every major species in the council. Your people value family above all else. You have children back home. What are their names? Shut up. My daughter's name was Lily. She loved stars. She could name every constellation visible from Earth. David's voice remained steady despite the weapon. She died terrified and confused. The last thing she knew was pain and fear. Brennicks's 4 arms trembled. I did not pull the trigger. No, but you gave the orders that led to it. You stormed a civilian transport with weapons ready. You treated families like enemy combatants, and when it went wrong, you tried to hide it. Through the speakers, more children's voices joined Tommy's. They were watching from the medical ship, begging for Ross's life. Tell me your children's names, David repeated. Brennicks's weapon lowered slightly. Kren and Sala, twins. They are 7 cycles old. The same age as Tommy. The same age as Sophia before we buried her in space because her body is somewhere in your compound. David turned slowly despite the weapon, looking Brennicks in the eyes. If someone killed Kren and Sala, what would you do? I would destroy them, burn their worlds, make them suffer as I suffered. Yes, that is what I wanted too. That is what every human wants right now. David's voice dropped lower. But my daughter would be ashamed of me if I became a monster to avenge her. She believed people could be better, even when evidence suggested otherwise. Lieutenant Skell appeared from a side corridor. His weapon was pointed at Brennicks, not at the humans. Commander, release him. This has to end. Skell, stand down. That is an order. No, sir. I followed your orders before. I watched children die. I will not watch this man die too. Brennick stared at his lieutenant, saw the determination there, saw other enforcers appearing, none of them raising weapons to help their commander. You are committing treason, Brennick said. I committed treason when I stayed silent after the massacre. This is me trying to find redemption. David felt the weapon pull away from his head. Brennick sagged against the wall, all 4 arms dropping to his sides. The weapon clattered to the floor. I cannot face my children after what I have done. Then face them anyway, David said. Tell them the truth. Teach them to be better than you were. That is harder than dying. That is actual punishment. Rivera moved forward carefully, taking Brennick into custody. She checked David for injuries, found none beyond the wounds he already carried. Ambassador, you should not have risked yourself like that. Commander, I lost my daughter. I was not losing anyone else today if I could prevent it. Medical teams rushed in, taking David back to Dr. Grant. She examined him while shaking her head. Your wounds reopened. You are bleeding internally again, you absolute idiot. Did we get everyone? All survivors safe, even got the bodies from cold storage. Those children are going home. Grant's hands worked quickly, sealing wounds and injecting medicine. You could have died. Yes, but I did not. The medical ship began its journey back to the defense fleet. The survivors sat together, wrapped in blankets, holding each other. Tommy Chen had not let go of Rivera's hand. The commander sat with him, this hardened special operator letting a traumatized child lean against her. Captain Volkov found David in the medical bay. Ambassador, what you did back there was insane. Probably did it work. We are all alive. I would say it worked. She sat beside his bed. The council is broadcasting footage of the rescue. Lieutenant Skell leaked everything. The whole galaxy just watched humans choose mercy over revenge. David closed his eyes. Good. Maybe something positive comes from this nightmare. On Earth, in the Defense Fleet Command Center, Admiral Wang watched the rescue footage. Senator Tanaka stood beside her, both women silent. They could have killed Brennick, Tanaka said finally. Rivera had a clear shot. Ambassador Ross talked him down instead, reminded him of his own children, showed him that violence just creates more violence. Wang shook her head slowly. That man just gave every species in the galaxy a lesson in humanity. The Council is demanding a tribunal. They want to try Brennix and the others under Council law. No, they face human justice or no justice at all. I will not let the Council bury this in bureaucracy. 3 weeks passed. The survivors returned to Earth to families who had feared they would never come home. The 4 bodies received full military honors despite being civilians. The funeral became a galactic event. Representatives from 40 species attended. Many had never visited Earth before. They watched humans grieve with a depth that shook them. Admiral Wang gave the eulogy in a memorial garden built specifically for this day. 4 small graves overlooked a valley where children played in the distance. Lily Ross, Tommy Chen's friend Sophia Okonkwo, Lucas Silva, 4 children who will never grow up, never fall in love, never have children of their own. Their future was stolen by fear and incompetence and arrogance. The gathered species stood silent. Some wept, others made gestures of respect unique to their cultures. But their deaths will mean something, Wang continued, because we refuse to let this happen again. Not to human children, not to anyone's children. We are proposing the Children's Law, a galaxy-wide treaty that any attack on children, any species' children, will be met with unified response from all signatories. Councillor Tethven stepped forward. The Council supports this proposal. We will be the first to sign. Others followed. Species that had been enemies for centuries agreed on this one absolute truth. Children were sacred, all children, everywhere. David Ross stood at his daughter's grave after the ceremony ended. He placed a small telescope beside the headstone, Lily's favorite possession. I hope this is enough, baby girl. I hope we can build something good from what they took from you. The wind carried his words away. Overhead, ships from 100 worlds departed, carrying the Children's Law back to their governments. The tribunal would begin tomorrow. The tribunal station hung in neutral space, exactly halfway between Earth and the Council's capital world. Engineers from both sides had built it in 3 weeks, working around the clock. Half the station used human architecture, clean lines and practical design. The other half showed Council style, all curves and artistic flourishes. The main chamber could hold 500 beings. Every seat was filled. Senator Yuki Tanaka walked to the central floor, carrying a data tablet that held 3 weeks of investigation. Behind her, Admiral Wang sat in full dress uniform. To her right, Ambassador Ross looked older than his years but determined. High Arbiter Quindle sat across the chamber with his council delegates. The bird-like alien's feathers had lost their luster. He knew what was coming. Commander Brennix and his enforcers occupied a separate section, guarded but not chained. Human justice did not believe in humiliation before trial. Councillor Tethven served as neutral arbiter, his amphibian features grave. This tribunal will determine responsibility for the deaths of 4 human children and injuries to 12 others. Senator Tanaka, present your evidence. Tanaka activated the holographic display. The massacre played in 3 dimensions above the chamber floor. Every delegate watched in silence as the transport was boarded, as children screamed, as weapons fired. 4 small bodies, 12 wounded, parents bleeding while shielding others. Tethven had seen the footage before. It still made him sick. The evidence shows clear violation of protocols, Tanaka said. This was a civilian transport with full documentation. The boarding was aggressive and unnecessary. The use of lethal force was criminal. Quindle stood slowly. The enforcer who fired acted against orders. Commander Brennix attempted to stop him. This was a tragic accident, not intentional murder. An accident? David Ross stood despite not being called. Wang touched his arm but did not stop him. An accident is spilling a drink. This was the result of treating families like terrorists, of storming aboard with weapons ready, of creating an environment where panic led to slaughter. "Ambassador, please," Tethvan said gently. "You will have your chance to testify." David sat, but his words echoed through the chamber. Dr. Sophie Grant testified next, presenting medical evidence. "I treated the survivors, 12 children with energy weapon injuries. 2 will never walk normally again. 1 lost hearing in both ears. Tommy Chen has physical scars and mental trauma that may last his entire life. These were not soldiers, these were bobbies." The council delegates shifted uncomfortably. Several species present valued children as much as humans did. This evidence hurt them too. Then came the cover-up. Tanaka displayed communications showing Quindle ordering the witnesses held in isolation, messages discussing how to minimize political damage, plans to offer reparations while hiding the truth. High Arbiter Quindle did not pull the trigger, Tanaka said, but he chose to protect the council's reputation over delivering justice. He made this tragedy worse. Quindle's feathers ruffled in anger. "I acted to prevent war. If this incident had become public immediately, humans would have attacked." "We did not attack," Wang said coldly. "We withdrew. We waited. We chose investigation over invasion. You assumed we were savages and treated us accordingly." The arbiter called for Ambassador Ross to testify. David walked to the center floor, moving carefully around the holographic display that still showed his daughter's death. "I have been a diplomat for 20 years, he began. "I have negotiated treaties with 17 species. I understand cultural differences. I know that what humans consider sacred, others might view differently." He paused, gathering strength. "But children should be universal. Every species here protects their young. Evolution demands it. Biology requires it. We all understand that the future depends on children surviving to adulthood." David pulled up images of the 4 dead children, not crime scene photos but pictures from their lives. Lily laughing at a joke, Sophia covered in paint from art class, Lucas playing soccer, Tommy's friend whose name was also Tommy riding his first bicycle. These were not statistics, not acceptable losses. They were individual souls with dreams and futures. Lily wanted to be an astronomer. Sophia planned to be a doctor. Lucas loved animals and wanted a farm. They died afraid and confused, wondering why adults with weapons were hurting them. Several council delegates were openly crying now. Their own children's faces probably haunted them. "I could demand executions," David continued. "I could call for council worlds to be sanctioned until you suffer as we suffered. That is what my grief wants." He looked at Brenix directly. "But that would dishonor my daughter's memory. She believed in second chances, in growth, in people becoming better than their worst moments." The chamber went silent. "So instead, I propose the Children's Law, a treaty that makes attacks on children of any species a crime against all species, not human law or council law, universal law, and I propose that Commander Brenix and his enforcers serve their sentences by helping to enforce this law. Let them spend the rest of their lives protecting the children they failed." Quindle stood. "You would trust them with such responsibility after what they did?" "I would give them a chance to earn redemption. The same chance I hope the Council would give humans if our positions were reversed." Brenix rose slowly, all 4 arms shaking. "I do not deserve mercy." "None of us deserve mercy," David said. "We receive it anyway from those strong enough to give it. Will you accept this chance?" Brenix looked at his enforcers, at Lieutenant Skell who had turned on him to save lives. "If you truly offer this, I will spend every day trying to be worthy of it." Senator Tanaka presented the formal treaty. 200 species had already signed. The Children's Law would create a galaxy-wide protection force. Any attack on children anywhere would trigger immediate response from all member worlds. Councillor Tethvan reviewed the document. "This is unprecedented cooperation. multiple species pledging to defend each other's young. "It is what should have always existed," Wang said. The vote was unanimous. Every species present signed. Even Quindle, his career destroyed but his conscience finally driving him to do right. As the delegates prepared to leave, alarms sounded throughout the station, a priority message from the frontier. Unknown species attacking colony transport, multiple species aboard, children casualties confirmed, invoking Children's Law Article 5. Wang looked at the message and stood. The treaty has not even been ratified yet. "The spirit of it exists," Tethvin said. "Will humanity honor its own proposal?" David Ross, Admiral Wang, and Senator Tanaka looked at each other. They were exhausted, still grieving, not ready for another crisis. But they had written the law. They had promised protection. "Mobilize the fleet," Wang ordered. "We are going." The colony transport Harmony drifted dead in space, hull breached in 3 places. Emergency lights flickered across damaged corridors. Inside, 7 species huddled together, protecting their children from the attackers who had already taken too much. Admiral Wang's flagship Defender arrived first, followed by ships from 6 other species. The Council had sent vessels. Even the normally isolationist Confederation contributed 2 cruisers. The Children's Law had been invoked, and the galaxy answered. Commander Rivera led the boarding team again, but this time she was not alone. Lieutenant Skell volunteered to join, wearing human equipment. Former enemies working together to save lives. "Medical is standing by," Dr. Grant reported from the Defender. "I see 15 injured children on scanners, multiple species. Get them to me fast." The attackers were refugees, their ships barely spaceworthy. They had fled some disaster and turned desperate. Desperation made people dangerous. Rivera's team cut through the Harmony's hull carefully. Inside, they found parents forming a wall around their children. A human mother held a reptilian child. An insectoid father shielded 2 human kids. Species that barely knew each other had become one family in crisis. "We are here to help," Rivera called out. "Children's Law Protection Force, you are safe now." The parents did not lower their guard until they saw Skell, the enforcer who had helped save human children weeks ago. If he was with the humans, this was real. The injured were rushed to medical ships. Dr. Grant worked on a young alien child whose species she had never seen before. Her human training adapted. Biology varied, but pain was universal. She stopped the bleeding and stabilized the patient. On the Defender's bridge, Ambassador Ross opened communication with the refugee fleet. Their leader appeared, a gaunt figure named Coral whose people were starving. "We did not know," Coral said immediately. "We did not understand galactic customs. We saw a ship with resources we needed. We attacked. When they fought back, when children screamed, we panicked. We are not warriors, just desperate." Wang studied the refugee ships, overcrowded, life support failing. These were not conquerors, they were people running from death. "Where is your homeworld?" she asked. "Gone, ecological collapse. We have been fleeing for 2 cycles, searching for anywhere that will take us. Every system turns us away. We are dying slowly." Coral's expression was haunted. "We became the monsters we fled from." David Ross understood desperation, understood how good people made terrible choices when survival was at stake. "The children you injured," he said carefully. "Some will recover fully, others will carry scars forever. One may not survive. We will accept any punishment, execution, imprisonment, we deserve it." "Yes, you do, but punishment does not heal the injured or feed your starving people." Ross looked at Wang, at Senator Tanaka who had joined via hologram. "We could destroy you, or we could offer an alternative." Tanaka pulled up data on New Hope Colony. "We have settlements that need workers, harsh conditions but livable. Your people could earn citizenship through labor, contribute to society instead of destroying it." Coral stared. After what we did, you offer us homes. We offer you a chance, Wang corrected. You work. You pay reparations to the families you harmed. You learn galactic law and customs. You teach your children to be better than you were. One criminal act does not have to define your entire species. And if we refuse, then we defend the innocent from the guilty. Those are the only two options. The refugee leader looked at his dying ships, at his starving people. We accept, thank you. The rescued children from the Harmony were brought together in the Defender's medical bay. 7 species, ages ranging from infants to teenagers. They spoke different languages but shared the same trauma. Tommy Chen, now 8 years old and healing from his own injuries, sat with them. He knew what they felt, the fear, the confusion, the wondering why adults had hurt them. It gets better, he told a young reptilian girl. Not fast, but it does get better. She did not speak his language, but his tone communicated everything. She held his hand. Dr. Grant watched them and felt something break open in her chest. This is what they were fighting for, not revenge or territory, just the simple right of children to be safe. 6 months later, the children's law was fully ratified. The protection force included members from 80 species. Commander Brennick served as training officer, teaching others to recognize the difference between threats and frightened civilians. The refugee settlement on New Hope thrived. Coral's people worked harder than anyone, driven by gratitude and guilt. Their children played with human children, with council species children, learning that differences were interesting rather than threatening. Ambassador Ross visited the settlement regularly. He had adopted a young alien girl whose parents died in the refugee crisis. Her species aged differently than humans, but she was roughly equivalent to 7 years old. She reminded him of Lily sometimes, the way she looked at stars with wonder. "Papa David, why did you help people who hurt children?" she asked one evening. He thought carefully about his answer. "Because your parents taught you to be kind. My daughter taught me to forgive, and the galaxy needed to learn that we can be better than our worst moments." "Do you still miss Lily?" "Every single day, but I think she would like you." The memorial garden on Earth had grown. It now honored children from multiple species lost in various conflicts, but at the center, 4 graves remained: Lily Ross, Sophia Okonkwo, Lucas Silva, the 4th child whose family had requested privacy. Tommy Chen visited on the anniversary, now 9 years old. Commander Rivera accompanied him. The hardened soldier and the traumatized child had formed an unlikely bond. "Do you think they know," Tommy asked, touching Lily's headstone, "that they changed everything?" "I think they would be proud of what came after. Scared kids became the reason the galaxy learned to protect all kids." Admiral Wang stood nearby with Senator Tanaka, both watching ships from 100 worlds pass overhead. Trade routes reopened. Diplomatic channels restored. The crisis had ended not in war but in cooperation. "We almost went to war," Tanaka said quietly. "We almost became what we fought against," Wang agreed. "Ambassador Ross saved us from that, reminded us who we are." David walked through the garden with his adopted daughter, showing her the stars Lily had loved. Other families visited other graves, species he could not name mourning children lost to old conflicts. But no new graves appeared. The children's law worked, not perfectly, not everywhere, but enough to matter. Overhead, a council ship and a human vessel flew in formation, joint patrol protecting a colony world. Former enemies now partners. All because 4 children died and humanity chose justice over vengeance. "Papa, can we go home?" his daughter asked. David looked at the sunset, at the memorial garden, at the playing children in the distance. "Yes, baby, we can go home." And across the galaxy, parents tucked their children into bed knowing they were protected, not by one species' military might but by a promise shared across the stars. The future belonged to the young, and every species had sworn to protect it. The promise was kept.